Hello, everyone. Greetings and welcome. This is Dr. Tonya White Johnson. I am so glad to have you here. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. All this week and a little bit of next week, we will be sharing leadership trainings, leadership tools to help you as you develop yourself as a leader, to give you some skills to help you develop yourself as a leader. And on yesterday, I believe it was, we shared with you tips on personal credibility and how important it is to be personally creditable as well as professionally creditable. And we gave you some areas and showed you how employers are gauging your credibility. Today, we want to continue discussing skills for developing yourself as a leader and how we learn from our experience. And the tool that we want to give you today is creating opportunities to get feedback. It is so very important to receive feedback as a leader. Now, one of the first things I want to kind of share with you, first of all, is that so many of us, when we think of leadership, we automatically begin to think of the professional working environment, and we think of CEOs and presidents and managers and supervisors, and some of us do not have aspirations for those types of positions. And that's okay, because what I try to make sure that we all understand is that we are leaders in some way, shape, or form. We are leaders in some aspect of our lives. So whether we are first-time parents, or whether we are big brothers, big sisters, whether we are friends, or whether we are entering into a community service type role, or whether we are entering into a service organization or a church, at some point in time, we're going to find ourselves as a leader in some capacity. And so these tools that we share with you can help you in your individual growth process as well as your leadership growth process. So we want to first make sure that you recognize that all of the aforementioned events that happens in our lives are all leadership positions. So whether we like it or not, we are all at some point in time called upon to be a leader. So the objective is to be effective in our new role as a leader. The objective is to be prepared in that role as a leader. So we understand that a leader can use his or her power for good or evil, as this has been witnessed by many past and present leaders. Anyone would be hard-pressed to deny that people like or leaders like Adolf Hitler or Stalin or Mussolini or many of those type leaders, that they were not an effective leader. The truth is, they were not good leaders in the sense of whether they had a good heart or whether they were doing the right thing, but they were effective leaders. So they didn't go down in history as good leaders, but they certainly went down in history as effective leaders. And here's just to help you understand that concept, what we mean by an effective leader. One definition that I like to use, there are many definitions of leadership out there, but one definition that I feel that is fairly comprehensive and helpful in understanding what leadership is all about is that leadership is the ability to influence a team of people towards accomplishing a common goal. So while those people that we mentioned before, those leaders that we mentioned before, Hitler, Stalin, Mussolini, so on and so forth, their ideals may have been sadistic, to say the least. They were able to get millions of people to believe in them and to follow their orders towards a common goal. That's what leadership is. Getting people, influencing people to work towards a common goal. So it is very important that you recognize your own power, but it's also extremely important, as I share with my students in my leadership classes, it is so important that you also use your power for good. But sometimes we don't get it. We don't understand the power that we have, and we become negligent in our responsibilities to be effective leaders. Recognizing that you are a leader in some capacity can be the first step in developing your skills as a leader. But understand this, becoming a great leader is not something that happens overnight. In fact, we want you to really grasp and really understand that leadership is a process, not a position. You can have the title of a leader. You can have a sign on your door that says you're the manager or the supervisor or the CEO or the president. That does not necessarily mean that you are the leader of that organization. There is what we call informal leaders in almost every organization. There is someone with the title, but then there's someone there, and you probably know that someone, or you probably are that someone, that can get everybody in your circle to do what needs to be done, where that person with the title may not be able to. So you may be that informal leader that we are referring to. So what we want to do today, though, when we're sharing how to learn from our experiences, we want to give you this tool. We want to give you a skill, if you will, to help you learn from your experiences. In my leadership class, we talk about a leadership theory that examines single loop and double loop learning. And without getting into too much detail, what we say is that single loop learning is when learners seek very little to no feedback from others around them. And double loop learners are learners who are willing to confront their own views and invite others to do the same as well. Basically, those people who are willing and really desire to get feedback from others. We understand that there are multiple perspectives, and we want to get others' perspectives on our ideas, on our fundamental ideas. So mastering this double loop learning can be thought of as learning how to learn. So one way that leaders can enhance the value of their learning is by creating opportunities to get feedback. Now, if you've ever worked in corporate America in any capacity, I'm sure you've heard people say, leaders, managers, supervisors, bosses, they say, we have an open door policy. HR will say this as well. We have an open door policy. Every job I've ever had, they've always said, we have an open door policy. But the question is, how many of us actually take that statement seriously, or have tried it only to be let down by office politics and office bureaucracy? So sometimes people say they have open door policies, but they really don't demonstrate that they have open door policies. And that's what we want to help you as a budding leader, as a leader already, wherever you are. We want to help you make sure that when you say that you have an open door policy, when you say that you are open to constructive feedback, that you're open to hear multiple perspectives from your employees, from your subordinates, from those people that are around you, that you really are demonstrating that you are willing to hear what they have to say. Even on a personal level, even as parents, we often tell our children that they can talk to us about anything. But what really happens when they do come to share some of those thoughts and tough decisions that they're up against today? How do we react? Or better yet, how do our children feel comfortable coming to us to even broach these tough subjects, these tough decisions, these conversations that they're having with their friends? Do they feel comfortable coming to talk to you? I know back in the day, and I come from a different generation. I'm from Generation X, so our parents were not that liberal at that point in time. And so it was very challenging, very difficult for me to go and talk to my parents about any of the difficult subjects, whether, it was having sex or whatever it was that might have been going on, or any questions that I might have had in my mind at that point in time. So young people have all kind of questions today because there's just so many things out there for them to get into. So as a parent, you want to make sure that you really do have an open door policy. You want to make sure that you really are approachable. So how do we create opportunities for feedback? In this session, I'm going to give you 3 ways, and we're almost done. It's not going to take that much longer. But one of the first thing that we want to do is we want to assess our approachability, not by our own measurement, not by our own standards, not by our own definition, but by the feedback that we get from others. Basically and essentially, we want to ask others, how approachable are we? Oftentimes, we tend to see ourselves completely different from the way that others sees us. And the only way to get a true understanding of how approachable we are is to ask others. A great tool to use is the 360-degree feedback tool. Using this tool, you evaluate yourself and you get feedback from your bosses, from your peers, and from your direct reports. That is a 360-degree feedback. You're getting it from everyone around you. You're not only evaluating yourself, but you have others evaluating you as well. Now, as a parent or a friend, you should ask for feedback from your children. They are your direct reports. From your spouses. They are your teammates, your co-workers, from your partners, from your friends, from your church members, etc. So you should use all of these people to get feedback from. So what I typically suggest you do is just take the time to write down a few questions, the same exact questions that you ask everybody, and evaluate the responses from all of those people. A great way to use this tool from an individual perspective, again, is to simply write down some of your questions. There are various assessments online that all you have to do is use a search engine to research, these types of assessments, these types of approachability assessments. And you can find all kind of assessments online that will help you to evaluate yourself. But here are some simple questions that you can put down on your list. First question: the negative feedback I give outweighs my positive feedback. The negative feedback I give outweighs my positive feedback. Second question: I step away from my desk and walk around to speak to my colleagues. I step away from my desk and walk around to speak to my colleagues. I make time available to speak with team members. I make time available to speak with team members. I keep my emotions in check when given bad news by my children. I keep my emotions in check when given bad news by my children. I make eye contact with others while speaking to them. I make eye contact with others while speaking to them. I speak or listen to others with my arms folded. That last question is, I speak or listen to others with my arms folded. Essentially, what folded arms says to other people, and we're going to actually do another podcast on our physical language, on our body language. But what folded arms says to other people is that I'm closed off, that I really don't want to hear what you're saying right now, that I'm really not interested in what you're saying. So while you may not intend that at all, that may not be what's going on in your mind, that is what other people are perceiving? So those are just some questions that you can write down that you could ask people around you from a professional perspective as well as from a personal perspective. And the answers to those questions can give you a very good idea if you are approachable. Again, you should first evaluate yourself and then ask for feedback from others in your circle. Now, the next tool or the next thing that you can do to assess and evaluate or create opportunities for feedback is to take psychological tests and assessments that you can find all over the internet for free. So you want to be able to, all you have to do is actually just research or put in your search engine approachability assessments. And they have tests all over the place that you can just take on your own to assess your approachability. So consistently doing this, and you want to do it at different times too. That was the other thing, because we tend to be in different moods at different times of the day. So you want to do it a few times, and you want to use different instruments, and that way you can get a really good gauge or measurement of your approachability. You know, consistent results basically will help you to evaluate your approachability. Now, the final tool that we want to give you for gauging your approachability and creating opportunities for feedback is the anonymous survey in the workplace. Giving anonymous surveys to your team members, as well as even on a personal level to your children, can help to evaluate your approachability as well. It is very important that your children understand that they can be completely honest and that there will be no repercussions for being honest. It's important that coworkers and subordinates understand this as well. You have to give consent for others to be honest with you. Let me repeat that. You have to give consent for others to be honest with you. If you really want to grow as an individual, if you really want to grow as a leader, you have to give consent for constructive feedback and constructive criticism. You have to be willing to accept it. The more these tools are used without fear of reprisal, and the more you become comfortable with others and receiving that feedback, you will become a more approachable leader. People will feel that they can share with you, they can be honest with you, they can speak to you about anything. Now, I will be the first to tell you that it is not easy hearing negative things about yourself, but the effective leader, or the leader who wants to be effective, I should say, welcomes this constructive feedback because they understand how to learn from their experiences. This is a great opportunity to put into practice some of the constructive feedback that we tend to hand out to others on a daily basis. So in time, we understand that creating opportunities to get feedback is one of the most effective tools in developing ourselves as individuals as well as effective leaders. So that's going to do it for today. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen. I hope that you were able to learn and gain some tips on how to create opportunities to get feedback and how to make yourself more approachable to those around you. If you did not get some of the questions that we asked you, of course, you can replay this podcast as many times as you like to replay it in order to get those questions. But keep in mind, you can also use your search engines to find approachability assessments that can help you gauge and even give you more ideas and more questions that you can ask to evaluate your approachability. So God bless you. I hope you're having an amazing, amazing day. I hope you're finding something to smile about, something to laugh about, something that will cause you to enjoy this day and every single day for the rest of your life. God bless you, and don't forget to embrace your greatness. Have an amazing day. Bye-bye.